In this video, I'm going to do a review of Artstudio Pro 1.3.9. The guys at Lucky Clan, and Lucky Clan are the developers of Artstudio Pro, and they make a lot of other apps as well. They sent me a promo code for this iOS version for iPad, and also a promo code for the desktop version. But in this video, I'm just going to do a review for the iPad version. So let's get to the review. First, we're going to open up Artstudio Pro, and when you open it up in the gallery, and it's a little bit similar to Procreate, where you have the gallery, and here you can choose the artwork we're already working on, or you can create a new file, and you can do that by pressing on the plus sign. Then you have a lot of options you can choose from, but I'm going to choose New Empty, and then you get a pop-up menu, and here you can fill in the width and the height, and you can also swap that. And here you have all the default settings you can choose from. So there is the clipboard, and that's the clipboard of your iPad. And when you open that up, it will open the size you have pasted into your clipboard. Here are a lot of different sizes, and down below there are the print sizes that are at 300 dpi. That's better for print. But I'm just going to open up an A4 paper, and I'm gonna swap it because I want it in landscape mode. So that when you press on swap, you will swap it, and you can set the resolution. It's now set to 300, which is good for print. And you can also change the background color to white, black, 50% gray, transparent, and white and transparent. But I'm just gonna leave it to white. And then press create, and then you've created your new canvas. Artstudio Pro has two different displays. This is the edit display, and it looks very similar to Photoshop. So here you have a file menu, and here you can also make a new empty canvas. New empty and current size, so it will copy the size you're working in. New from photos, so you can make it from photos, and you can also close it, save it, and Artstudio Pro also auto saves in between when you're painting. Then you'll get a pop-up that it's saving your file. You can rename it, export it, do a quick export, and you can also screen record everything you're doing. But then you have to go to the preferences, and in the preferences you can, choose if you want your canvas rotation on, and a lot of other options. And there's just too many options to go over in this review. And what I really would like to focus on in this review is the drawing stuff in Artstudio Pro. So on the left side you have the transform tool, a lasso tool, and this looks very similar to when you're working in Photoshop. You have a select rectangle, select ellipse, lasso, polygon lasso, and the magic wand. You can also crop your image, which you can't do in Procreate, so that's a big plus. There's the eyedropper, and there's also a menu for the paintbrushes, and they're divided in three parts: paint, pencil, and wet paint. And you also have a clone and healing brush, the eraser, the smudge tool, and with the smudge tool you can smudge, blur, and sharpen things. There is the dodge, burn, and sponge, and there's a bucket, and also a gradient fill and a pattern bucket fill. The great thing about Artstudio Pro that it also has a text tool. So I'm just gonna set the text to black, because underneath you have some more. So if you select a feature here, you have more properties on the bottom of the screen. So, and that goes for all the features in Artstudio Pro. So I'm just gonna type in a text. Just call it Artstudio Pro. And then you can move it around, and you can also change the size of it. So first you need to select the text, and then you can make changes to the text. So that's great. And on the right upper side there you have a pencil tool, and you can choose between using your finger to draw and also your pencil to draw. But when you press on it again, you can only paint and draw with your pencil, and your fingers you're using for the gestures. Here's the layers panel. So this is the text layer. So it's very similar, and underneath you can make it a group, or duplicate your layer, or add your layer to the group, or add a mask. And here you can, select a new layer. What I really would like to concentrate on in this review is the painting aspect of Artstudio Pro. And now I'm still in the editing mode, but there's also another mode you can draw in, and you have to press on the little square in the upper right corner. And now you're in the painting and drawing mode, and this looks very similar to Procreate. Here you can select the brushes you want to paint in, and it's categorized, and underneath you have all the different groups you can choose from. So you have assorted brushes, basic brushes, dot specs, grunge, inking, markers, painting, sketching, smudge, wet painting, and you can also import TPL files. So I also imported the Kyle Gouache Golden set I bought for my Photoshop, and they also work pretty good. So this is a TPL file I have imported into Artstudio Pro, and sometimes the brushes don't really react that well because they were not made for Artstudio Pro. So the tilt function doesn't really work, but with the Kyle T. Webster brushes, there are some interesting brushes with the structures. And if you already bought them for Photoshop, you can also import them into Artstudio Pro. The undo and redo is the same as in Procreate. So you just tap with 2 fingers on the screen to undo, and 3 fingers on the screen to redo. So that's the same. What I also like to test out in a drawing app are the basic sketching brushes. So I'm just gonna select the sketching brushes, and I went over a lot of them, but the pencils I like the most are the natural pencil brushes. And there's a difference between the natural pencil HB, and you also have pencils with tilt between brackets. And these have the tilt function of your Apple Pencil. You can use the tilt function of your Apple Pencil. So I'm just going to select Sharp Pencil Tilt. This is at 2 pixels. And just show you how you can, or how it reacts to the tilt function. And then you have a little bit more of a structure in your pencil. It's a little bit fatter, so you can build up your gradients a lot better. And you can also change the size and the opacity. The opacity they call flow. And sometimes, because it's now set to pencil and finger. You can also set it to just your pencil only mode, so you cannot draw with your finger. Next thing I want to test out is the ink brushes, because if you want to do comics or anything or more illustration like art, it's always good, you know, to have a good inking brush. And I'm just going to open up a new layer and just select the old ink brush. I like that a lot because it has a little bit of a jitter to it. And it reacts very well because Artstudio Pro is also using the engine which is called... Artstudio is also using the Metal engine. It's the same engine Procreate is using. So the flow is pretty good. And it reacts very well to the pressure sensitivity. When you want to go back to the gallery, you cannot do that in the drawing mode. So you have to press here, and then you can press on the left arrow, and then you go, it first auto saves it, and then you go back to the gallery. I did the inks for an old illustration of Cubby the Lion, and I just used that inking brush. So if you want to have a little bit more of an old looking illustration and want to ink with it, this is a pretty good inking brush to work with. I also did some tests with the painting engine or the painting brushes. Just gonna select the paintings. Here are the painting brushes, and there are some interesting brushes, but I really need to get used to it because they are divided in oil paints. They also have some aquarelle or watercolor brushes, and you can mix them. There's also a wet oil paint brush. Just gonna select white. This is a little bit more of a gray. And also reacts to the pressure sensitivity of your Apple Pencil. And you can also set the flow of your brush. And another thing with the brushes is that you can also change the settings of the brushes. So here are the general settings and the spacing. You can change the spacing. So when you press on it, you can type it in, or you can use the slider to change the spacing of your brush and the maximum size of your brush. Colorize each stroke. color, I don't know what that is, but auto set flow, auto set opacity. You can also set the blending, so you have all the different blending options in the brushes you can choose from. So if you're doing watercolors, maybe set it to multiply, and there's just a lot of different options you can use. And another great feature in Artstudio Pro is that you can choose between freehand, line, rectangle, ellipse, and polygon. So I'm just going to use the ellipse tool and just draw an ellipse, and then it will draw the ellipse with the selected brush. So this is a great feature you can use, and just have to go back, and if you want to draw straight lines, just select straight lines, and then you can do it freehand again and just painting something with the freehand tool. So that's a great feature in Artstudio Pro, because Procreate still doesn't have the shape brushes. There's also the wet paint, and I'm not quite sure what that is doing, because it doesn't really blend the colors. Maybe you have to choose the wet painting brushes to use. So I'm just gonna select the file oil bristle and choose another color and see if it blends. This looks more like a smudge brush. Still need to get used to, painting in Artstudio Pro, because it is a little different than painting and drawing in Procreate. So I'm not quite sure what the wet paint brushes are doing. There is the smudge tool as well. So you can smudge your colors. There's the eraser. And you need to reselect if you want to select the same brush. In Procreate that's a lot faster to do, but here you have to do it by hand. There's a little star, and here you can add your favorite presets. When you go to the layers, you also have some effects you can apply to your painting. I'm just gonna set it to normal. Go back, edit effects, and here you can bevel emboss it. Stroke, make a stroke around it. Inner shadow, inner glow, outer glow, color overlay, gradient overlay, pattern overlay, and drop shadow. And when you press here, you can change all the settings of your drop shadow and how far it is off. Let me see the hardness, the angle, the distance. So there's just a lot of great features in Artstudio Pro. And it's also auto-saving everything. And when you go back to the edit mode, because I think this is the edit mode of Artstudio Pro, you can, of course, export your file as a PNG, JPEG, TIFF, as an Artstudio Pro file, a PSD, and a PDF. Also made some sketches, just to test out all the brushes, and also some different brushes to see, how it works. But basically it's a great app, especially for editing your photos, and for painting it also has some great brushes, but I really need to get used to, painting in Artstudio Pro. But the painting engine and the painting brushes in Procreate are better than Artstudio Pro. But the big advantage and the big pro is that you can edit your pictures, you can crop them, and you can also use the text tool. And if you want to have some text in Procreate, for instance, you can make it in this app and then copy it and then import it into Procreate. So overall, Artstudio Pro is a great drawing app and also a great editing app for your photos or your art. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you like it, please give it a thumbs up or subscribe to my channel. And don't forget to hit that notification bell, because each time I upload a new video, you get a notification. If you want me to do tutorials about Artstudio Pro, please let me know in the comments down below. Drawing is fun and practice makes perfect. See you next time. Doodles!